Okay, so we're just going to get straight into it. We're going to just do a quick overview of the Teamfight Tactics notes, patch 10.8. As you can see here, the Xerath, I don't know if you guys knew, but Xerath was coming out. It's been very hyped, so yeah, let's get right into it. I'm just going to talk about what I'm going to expect to see. I'm expecting to see a nerf to definitely mech pilots, infiltrators, a nerf to 6 cybernetics, and a nerf to maybe void brawlers. Those were the three main comps that were really strong. Also KO actually, yeah, so those 4 main comps. So 6 cybernetics, mech pilot infiltrators, KO, and void, in particular Vel'Koz, just because he was the main damage output. So yeah, let's get right into it. Hopefully we see nerfs to that, maybe some buffs to things that weren't seen as much. Rebels got nerfed into the dirt, so maybe we can see something there. There's obviously going to be some Dark Star changes and some sorcery changes with Xerath coming in, so let's get right into it. They already know. Welcome mech pilots in patch 10.8. Yo, we've got some stuff to talk about. First off, a brand new legendary champion. Xerath is here, ready to cap off your Dark Star and Sorcerer comps. This late game carry drops meteors all over the battlefield, which gets additional power from killing enemies. We're also adding 2 new Galaxies. Oh, that's cool. Trade Sector and Super Dense. Trade Sector will give you the opportunity to reroll your shot once per round for free. Wow. That would be really good for those reroll comps, like those comps where you have the 3-star units like mech infiltrators, Guardians of the Galaxy, that Star Guardian comp, even some new comps with Master Yi, the hyper carry, that would be really good for that. Or maybe even actually those level 8 units where you have to reroll for like level 8 comp, sorry, where you have to reroll for a 5-cost unit like Echo for 6 cybernetics, but we'll see what happens to those. And Super Dense Galaxy, where you'll get a free Force of Nature at level 5. Okay, I was actually hearing rumors about this. Thank God it's at level 5. It would be so weird to have 4 units out of the get-go and then leveling up and just having so many units like come in. Especially, it would change so much how many comps you could put in, but yeah, essentially we got to get ready for this. I think this is really good. If you have the Super Dense Galaxy, you would want to play it with a comp that does reroll a lot, because that way you would be able to have access to another unit. So for example, if you look at the Star Guardians build, you usually have 6 Star Guardians, which is 6 units, and then you have 3 inbuilt sorcerers into it, which is Syndra, Zoe, and Ari, and then usually you level up to level 7 for the 4 sorcerer buff, right? But then with that additional unit, you can also put in Mystic. Same with these other like groups, like for example, if you're rerolling protectors, usually you go 4 protectors, and then right now there's 2 different metas of either 4 protectors 4 mystic, or 4 protectors 2 sniper 2 mystic. But the thing that's hard about these reroll comps is that you don't really want to get to level 8, because it lowers your chances of getting 3 stars and 2 stars and increases your chance of getting 5 stars and 4 stars. But meanwhile, the point of these comps is to actually reroll hard at like level 5, level 6, level 7. So that's why you would never want to get to level 8. However, you can get the effect or get the feeling of being at level 8 at level 7 with the extra unit, and you can just get that extra unit without having to level up, because getting from level 7 to level 8 is very expensive. It's 50 gold, so this makes it a lot easier for those reroll comps that have to reroll from level 5, 6, and 7, which if you're in a Super Dense Galaxy, I recommend that strategy. In the land of balance adjustments, we're sticking with our theme of buffing the weak over nerfing the strong. The big highlights include buffs to underperforming tier 4 champions Wukong and Soraka. I agree with that. I don't know how much I agree with Wukong, because for Vanguard was really strong, but Wukong as a standalone unit was pretty weak, same with Soraka, and nerfs to the Super Mech and Shaco. Okay, good. I already like that. Big overview. We won't look at this, we'll just go straight into it. Yeah, as everyone knows, everyone was like hyped up for Xerath. Tier 5 Dark Star Sorcerer looks good, the stats look good. 30 out of 80 mana. Okay, this is the ulti. Xerath transforms, summoning meteors to strike random foes in his place of his normal attacks for 6, 8, 45 seconds. Lol, 3-star looks insane. Meteors deal 300, 400, 2500 damage upon impact, and if they kill their target, all adjacent enemies take 100, 200, 12, 50 magic damage and are stunned for 1.5 seconds. Okay, this ult from the get-go, like these damage numbers look very small, but it is actually quite crazy, because if you're running Xerath, you're probably going to run some variation of sorcerers, and this will boost the damage. And I'm pretty sure if maybe we can look at the new traits right now. I don't know if they have sorcerers. Yeah, okay, sorcerer power, right? If we go to they buff 4 sorcerers, sorry. So if you 45% increase to damage. So if we look at Xerath, that would be just under 600 damage, and that's not including the fact that you're probably going to have AP items on him like Rabadons, maybe Jeweled Gauntlet. So this could do easily up to 1000 damage per strike or meteor, and then on top of that, if it does kill them, it will do 200 damage to adjacent enemies and stun them. So, and it's how many meteors is it? Does it say how many meteors it does? 7. No, it takes 4. Oh, it's for a time. Okay, but yeah. So this could do up to 400 damage to adjacent units and stun them. This could do up to 800. Wait, this could do up to 800. But that's if you have like minimal AP items. I reckon if you ruin him, if you item him with a Jeweled Gauntlet or with a Rabadon, Jeweled Gauntlet and Rabadon, this could easily do up to 1.5k per meteor, which would be insane because that's almost a guaranteed kill, and he'll just be stunning units left, right, and center. New galaxy mechanics: trade sector. Sorry, I've been reading up on the stock market. Players get 1 free reroll in each round. Okay, like I said, I think this would be good for if you're going for those units where you need a 5 cost unit to reroll at level 8. Also in the early game, just to make sure you survive. And then on top of that, what else is there? It would be really good for those hyper roll comps, such as mech pilots or Star Guardians, or just maybe even like those Master Yi comps that are coming up nowadays. Or maybe just rerolling for that level 4 unit when you hit level 5. Upon reaching level 5, players receive a free force of nature. That's good, I like about it. There's now about a 50% chance of getting a special galaxy versus a normal game, with Trade Sector and Super Dense Galaxy a tad more favored than the others. Okay, so hang on, let me read this again. There's now about a 50% chance of getting a special galaxy versus a normal game, with Trade Sector and Super Dense Galaxies a tad more favored. Okay, so we're going to be seeing more Super Dense Galaxies and more Trade Sector Galaxies, as opposed to the other special galaxies, which were Lilac Nebula with the 4-star, with the 4 cost unit, sorry, and the Nicoverse and the Medium Legends. So Trade Sector and Super Dense Galaxies are going to be favored more, so you're going to be seeing more of those. Like I said, for my personal opinion, Trade Sector, I would try to play around those reroll comps that I expect you to reroll in the mid game. So Protectors, Mech Pilots, and Star Guardians, but we'll see about that in the future with the nerfs and buffs and stuff. Yeah, and with the Super Dense Galaxy, again, I would play those comps where you could sneak in an extra synergy, but it really hard is to. So for example, with 6 cybernetics, right, you go like 6 cybernetics with Misfortune and Kale, but now you would always have that extra synergy that you could probably never sneak in. Like, you'd probably want a Thresh for Mana Reaver with the Irelia, or you'd maybe want a maybe like a different sort of buff. Like, you always have like this extra synergy in 6 cybernetics that you could never get. So for example, people would always like to run also Shen and Ezreal, which would give you Blade Master, Chrono, and Blaster, but then you could never run Thresh in there for Mana Reaver. There was always like a Mana Reaver that you could never get that you would always want, or maybe a Blaster buff you can never get that you always want. So this would be really good for the Free Force Nature, would be really good for those comps like that. Also, the Trade Sector Galaxy specific comps that would be good for this include, I reckon, 4 Protectors, Star Guardians, and what was it? Mech Pilot. Okay. Other system stuff: we're making it more difficult to purposefully blue streak open for, as it will now risk being. I think that was a typo. As now risk will be being eliminated before stage 4-7. We still think loss streaking should be a strategy, and especially a fallback for unlucky early shot rolls or slow compositions. I agree, but they should be actively trying to lose by small margins rather than happily full-on open forwarding. That is true. I see a lot of people losing by a lot, and they are cool with that, as opposed to the fact that when you lose streak, you should be trying to lose with only 1 unit on the opponent board, so you lose minimal health. Because right now you could open 4 and only lose about 12 to 15 HP from the first few rounds, and you would lose by 3 units every time. So I feel like people are not taking enough damage, so I agree with this. Oh, okay, so they changed the win streak and lose streak. So essentially, it is harder to get to. It used to be you need 4+ wins or 4+ losses to get 3 gold per round, but now it's 5. It used to be 3 for 2 gold, now it's 4. And it used to be 2 gold, wait, it used to be 2 rounds for 1 gold, and now it's 2 to 3 rounds for 1 gold. So essentially, you have to get more wins and more losses to maintain your win streak and loss streak, which I think is good because I thought it was too easy before, and that's why people were trying to open 4 a lot. Base damage per stage, 0, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15. Wow, they really buffed this. So essentially, on average, every stage will be taking more damage. Approximately 3. This is a difference of 3. This is a difference of 3. Difference of 3. Difference of 5. Difference of 5. Difference of 5. So on average, you'll be taking around 3 to 4 more damage per round, which is kind of insane. I reckon this is actually a low-key nerf to all those comps where you have to rush level 8. So 6 cybernetics and maybe 6 rebels, stuff like that, things that go into the late game, because you will be dying earlier and you'll need to find a way to survive. So this is like a low-key nerf to those comps towards the end game. Total damage based on the number of surviving units, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, fair. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, so if there are 5, as you can see, the numbers change up to the first 5. So it used to be if you have 5 surviving units, you used to take 5 damage, but now it's up to 10 damage if there's 5 surviving units. And so for every surviving unit before 5 units die, you take 2 more damage, which is kind of insane. So last time, if there were 3 units alive, you used to only take 3 damage, but now you'll be taking 6 damage. So you'll be taking a lot more damage this patch, so just make sure you keep an eye out for that. Yeah, introduce new carousel variations, keep an eye out. Okay, cool. Traits, new traits. Okay, 9 Blade Master, 9 Dark Star, 6 Infiltrator, 6 Protector. Okay, a lot of these comps, with the exception of maybe 8 Sorcerer, don't look like they are viable strategies. Okay, let me explain why. I think 9 Blade Master, while it would look good, is very hard to get because I think naturally in the game right now there are only 7. Well, let me think. Zaya, Yasuo, Kayle, Shen, Master Yi, Irelia. Is that it? That might be it actually. Surely I'm missing someone. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, these, I feel like 9 Blade Master would definitely require you making a Blade Master item, which would just be a bit hard, a bit unreliable. Same with 9 Dark Star, same with 6 Infiltrator, because right now there's only 5 with Echo, Kha'Zix, Shaco, Kai'Sa, and Fizz. 6 Protector, like I said before, there's only 4 Protectors, so you need to make 2 Protector items. These seem unreliable. Same with 9 Rebel, you have to make an additional 2 Rebel units. I'm pretty sure 9 Blade Master, you'd also have to make an additional 2. I feel like I'm forgetting a 7th Blade Master. 9 Dark Star, there are only 6, with now 7 with Xerath coming in. So again, you would have to make 2. So a lot of these comps aren't really that viable. 8 Sorcerer though, on the other hand, you could run, but I don't know how squishy your team would be. I think maybe if you did it with like a Locket in the front line or some sort of frontline item, maybe ZZ Rot, it could work. But especially with the new Xerath buff, you could just need your Xerath to ult and it would just demolish everything, maybe even Vel'Koz. But yeah, we'll look at these new changes here with these actual like comps that you could get. Okay, Celestial Heal 15, 30, 60, now 15, 40, 65. So what have they done? They have buffed 4 Celestial and they have buffed 6 Celestial, which this is a buff to the Protector comps, because a lot of Protector comps have inbuilt 4 Celestial into them, sorry. So yeah, that would be awesome. Maybe they want to try and see more 6 Celestial buffs, 6 Celestial comps. I don't know if this is enough of a buff to get 6 Celestial to be ran. However, the buff for 4 Celestial looks pretty relevant, so I could see maybe people running that as opposed to Because I know a lot of people used to run 4 Vanguard, 2 Mystic, 2 Sniper for the Jin comp. But now you could probably use 4 Protector, 2 Mystic, 2 Sniper, where you would have Ashe, Lulu, Xin Zhao, and Rakan as your 4 Celestials, which would be really good for Jin because his healing would be off the charts. Okay, now looking at the 6 Cybernetics, nerf 50 health, 5 damage. I don't know if that is enough, but at the same time people will be taking more damage, so this is already an indirect nerf to Cybernetics, so I think that's fine. So it's essentially 2 nerfs to Cybernetics already. Okay, Mech Pilot, this is the one I've been looking at. Super Mech Pilot, 100% of pilot's health, 1080 plus 50% of pilot's health. I don't know how much this changes everything. I'm assuming this is going to be this is assuming that all the health. Okay, hang on, 50%. This is assuming that 50% of their health is lower than 600, which I think it would be. This is a nerf to mech pilots because when you get 3-star units, your health of your units increase significantly, right? So this is essentially nerfing the late game end of the mech pilot synergy. So in the early game, the 1800 health would be good when you have like maybe just a 1-star Annie, Rumble, and Fizz. But when you get those 3-star units, this is a huge nerf because they will Fizz 3-star, Annie 3-star, and Rumble 3-star will have an insane amount of health where they would use 100% of that to make up the Garen's health, but now it's only 50% of that, which is very, very low. Because I'm pretty sure like when you hit level 3, you would get like somewhere around 2.5k health, and if on average, if you divide this by 3, which is how many units make up the mech pilot, it will be 600 health. So that means you're saying that you're gaining 600 health for losing 50%, right? So you're saying you have to look at it in the way that is 600 lower than 50% of the health of my units, which in most cases it will be if you're going above 2-star, 3-starring these Annie and Rumble Fizzes, which is the aim of the mech pilot comp. You hyper roll for 3-star Annie and 3-star Rumble. So this is a pretty big nerf for the late game of mech pilot. Mech pilot super mech spell damage 400, 500, yep, etc. Nerfed to 4, 5, 600, no changes here. 700, no changes here. So the way, hang on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so the way this works is the combination of the stars, right? So say if you have a 2-star Rumble, a 2-star Annie, and a 1-star Fizz, it essentially goes from 3 to 9, right? So this is the addition of all the stars. So the minimum you can have is you have to have a 3-star mech pilot because of the fact that you have a 1-star Annie, a 1-star Rumble, and a 1-star Fizz, and if you add the stars all together, you get 3, right? So this will be if you have all level 1 units. So if you have a level 2 Fizz, a level 2 Rumble, and a level 1 Fizz, a level 2 Annie, a level 2 Rumble, and a level 1 Fizz, you start at the 3 and you'll move up 2 spaces from 3, 4, 5. So it will be doing 600 damage when you have two 2-star units and 1-star unit. So essentially what they're doing is they're nerfing, this is 3, 4, 5, 6. So if you have everything 2-star in the mech pilot, everything has stayed the same. However, once you start 3-starring units, they have nerfed the damage from 900 to 1200 if you have 1 3-star and 2 2-stars. Then a nerf from 1500 damage to 1200 damage if you have 2 3-stars and 1 2-star. And once you get everything 3-starred, so 3-star Fizz, 3-star Rumble, 3-star Annie, the damage hasn't changed, which I think is agreeable because 3-star Fizz is really difficult to get. On top of that, you'd have to get 3-star Rumble and 3-star Annie, which is very rare. You only see that on like those meme Reddit pages of TFT. So they have nerfed the combination of 7-star Garen and they have nerfed the 8-star Garen, which I think is good. This is essentially nerfing the mech pilot's health and damage in the late game and discouraging the rerolling mechanic on this comp, which I think is a really heavy nerf. Okay, Mercenary, added visualization to indicate purchase mercenary upgrades. Cool. Base price item drop chance 15 to 20. That's actually pretty big. That is how much? That is a 33.3% buff. But how much would that change? On average, you would have to kill 5 units to get an item, but now, and for this one, you'd have to kill 6.6, 6 2/3. Okay, so this is a huge buff. So on average, you would have to kill like 1 to 2 units less just to get an item from Space Pirate. So this would be a buff. I could see this actually being such a big buff to the point where people would actually run Space Pirate more, because Space Pirate could be a viable comp, but it was nothing you would actually run specifically. It would just be like, if you get it, then you can run it, and if you run it, then just see the best and do the best you can. But this definitely increased the consistency of it, so that's awesome. Sorcerer spell power 2040 80 to 2045 80, so a buff to 4 sorcerer. This is actually good for the Star Guardians comp, so yeah, that's awesome. Star Guardians looks like they're getting a bit better this game with the new universes and the buffs to traits. But let's look at the specific champions. Okay, Caitlyn Ace in the hole, 700, 1000, 1800 to 750, 1500, 300, 3000. That's good. I thought Caitlyn was too weak in the early game. Sire Deadly Plumage attack speed buff, 75, 100, 150, 100, 125, 150. Okay, so they buffed 1-star and 2-star Xayah, which is pretty good, I reckon. These are, to be fair, Caitlyn, Xayah, Zoe were all weak champions that I would personally never run. The only time I would run them is if I had, like, for example, Caitlyn and Xayah, I would have like damage items on them, and I'd eventually sell them and give those items to, say, like Irelia, Kayle, or Jhin, or Shaco, or something. So just like, they're just like a damage item substitute. Zoe stun duration 2, 2.53, 2, 2.54. Okay, so a buff to 3-star Zoe. This looks like a Star Guardians buff again. I don't know why they're buffing Star Guardians so much. Zoe Sleepy Trouble bubble damage 150, 225, 400. 200, 275, 400. So 3-star Zoe damage hasn't changed, but they have buffed 1-star and 2-star Zoe. I agree with this. I think she was way too weak in the early game. She would be like, she was literally my least favorite 1-cost unit, I'd say, if I wasn't going to Star Guardians. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think she was my least favorite champion. So awesome that they're buffing her damage. They haven't changed the stun duration for levels 1 to 2. So the only reason where this 4 seconds would be relevant is if you were running Star Guardians. Okay, anti-armor buffed. I don't know how I feel about any buffs to like the mech pilot synergy in general, because I'm really biased towards literally hating it so much, because I just see like those like memes, or like literally every time, like every other game I see someone going me mech, me no scout. Like, it's so annoying. But you know what, they did nerf the late game pretty hard, so I guess making it an early game synergy does favor it, I guess, because that way you can at least fall in the late game so that people actually have a chance. Honestly, Galaxies shield, blast shield 225 to 273. So they buffed the shield at all stages of the game, which I think is fine, because I mean, I think the problem with Mech Pilot was the Garen unit, right? When it was unkillable and it was doing so much damage. But if you're making a buff to the units specifically, so I wouldn't, like Annie, Fizz, and Rumble, I wouldn't mind that, just because of the fact that it'll be assuming that the Garen mech unit is dead, which is okay for me. Darius buffed his mana cost from 70 to 60. Lucian damage nerfed. Yeah, Lucian was a pretty strong 2-star unit. Grand entrance targeting, attack target furthest enemy with within 3 hexes. Okay, so this is more targeting the Rakan targets a backline now, which is kind of crazy. Rakan Grand entrance knock up radius 2 to 1. That is a pretty big nerf. He used to knock up so many units with that. So this is a nerf to protectors. But Rakan total mana cost has changed from 150 to 100. So he'll be knocking up people more, and he'll be knocking up your backline more, but he'll be knocking up less people. I think that's fine, actually, because I think that's a buff in any case, because of the fact that when you CC someone, who do you want to CC? You want to CC their backline, because their backline is the one that's doing damage. So, and on top of that, he'll be doing it more often. So I low-key think this is a buff to Rakan. It may come off as a nerf, depending on if you want that large knock-up in the front line, but I think it should be fine. If anything, it's a huge buff. Shen health 700 to 800. Shen's future refuge dodge duration 2.534. 2.535. So they buffed 3-star Shen, and they buffed Shen's overall health. I think that's fine, because a lot of people didn't run Chrono to begin with, and I think Chrono and Blade Master was something that was slightly off meta, or it was secondary to 6 cybernetics and Mech Pilot, so I think that's fine to encourage people to run Blade Master and Chrono. Tier 3 champion, Shaco nerfed. Attack damage nerfed. That is awesome. Shaco deceive damage. So this is the damage that his ulti gives. 250, 325, 400, 300, 325, 350. Is that a buff? It's a buff. Yeah, let me think about the math of this. 50. So 50 times 250. It was used to be 55. 55 times 400. Oh wait, no, I'm reading it backward. Wait. Oh, they nerfed late game Shaco. Okay, my bad. So they buffed 1-star Shaco, which you're probably never going to run, because you'd want, and 2-star Shaco say the same, and they nerfed 3-star Shaco by 50% damage. Okay, so sorry, I misread that, but yeah, okay, that's an awesome buff. So 3-star Shaco is a lot weaker now, 5 less damage overall. So this used to be a damage buff of 55 times 4 would be 220 to now 350 times 50% times 50 would be about 175. So yeah, that is a huge nerf. That is a damage reduction of almost, that is 45 damage less, which is just over 20%, I think. So that is, or just under 20%, something like that, around 20%. So that is a really good nerf. Just attack damage nerf. I just saw Shaco ran way too much, so that's awesome. Syndra range 660 to 890. I don't know how much that's going to change anything. Is this Syndra attack range? I'm assuming it's Syndra attack range. So I think let's just keep Syndra in your backline more, so she doesn't have to move forward, I guess. I think that's the only, I don't know how, I don't think that's going to change much. Fizz health nerfed, Fizz attack speed buffed, Jin attack speed, wait no, Jinx attack speed buff, sorry. So Fizz health got nerfed overall, which nerfs the Mech Pilot sorta, but attack speed is buffed. I don't really think you would care about the attack speed of Fizz just because of the fact that it doesn't give anything to the Garen Mech Pilot. So nerfing the health and buffing the attack speed I think is fine. Jinx attack speed buffed, I think that's good, because I think Brawler Blasters was that comp you would only run if you got it, as opposed to like Mech Pilot and 678 where a lot of people would force it, so I think that's fine. Soraka health buffed, wish healing of Soraka's ulti is buffed at all stages of the game. Wow, they really buffed the freaking 3-star. If you get a 3-star Soraka, essentially, if someone has Morello or red buff, you're still getting healed for health either way. So I think that's a good reward. I think that's fine. Like, if you get a 3-star Soraka, that should overcome any healing debuff you get. So I think that's fine. Wukong Cyclone damage 250, 450, 2000 to 300, 500, 4000. So yeah, I think that's fine. Wukong was a really weak standalone unit. This is essentially a buff to Vanguard and Chrono. I don't know if Vanguard needed a buff because a lot of people were running Jin, but if they nerf Jin, then indirectly Vanguard gets a debuff, because essentially when you run Vanguard, you would want a really good damage carry in your backline, which in this meta was, or in the 10.7 meta was Jin. So I think this is fine as long as if they nerf Jin, but I don't see any nerfs right now. So I think maybe in this patch, Jin will be really strong. Vel'Koz Lifeform Disintegration Rage Duration 2.5 to 2. Vel'Koz will now cast more efficiently on smaller groups of units. Okay, I think this is just a quality of life change. I don't know. So essentially what they're saying is that he's going to do, I think this, I don't know, I'm going to look at the thing and see if they say it as a buff or a nerf. I would say it might be, oh, it's a nerf. Okay, fair. Because if it's doing the same amount of damage, then I don't see how that affects too much, except for the fact that he casts it on a smaller range. But I think that's fine. As long as, because if it's on a smaller range, but they say it's more efficient, then I think that's fine. But yeah, it's hard to say because there's no direct health or damage nerf changes. So we'll just see from gameplay. Aurelion Soul health buffed heaps. Wow, 150 and armor buff. So 6 rebels could be more viable now because of the fact that Aurelion Soul will last longer. That is a huge buff. Wow, that is probably like the biggest buff to a solo unit in the game. Okay, that is crazy. Wow. Items. Chalice of Favor now also grants mana to Holder. Okay, that's a huge buff to Star Guardians. Yeah, Deathblade starting stacks 2 to 0. Deathblade attack per stack 50 to 30. Okay. I would say, so you would start off with the extra bonus 30 damage plus the initial damage, but now you start off, so you BF Sword I think gives, how much AD was it? I'm just going to assume that it was 15 maybe, I'm not quite sure actually. But essentially this buffs if you can get it stacking, which I don't think this will change Deathblade that much. The only way I could see this being good is maybe on Jinx or something that could kill multiple units, but even then it's hard to say where this would be good. Frozen Heart attack speed slow 40 to 50%. I don't know how much that will change anything because Frozen Heart was really never ran, and a 10% buff is not enough for people to run it. Rapid Fire counter bonus range 100 to 200%. Rapid Fire now displays a visual beam on attack when increasing the range of low range champions. Okay, I think the Rapid Fire counter bonus range only is useful to champions that were melee range to begin with, because for example if you put it on a Shaker, right, Shaker could only attack units next to him, but then after you put it on a Shaker he could attack units 2 hexes away. But now this is a 200% buff, right, instead of a 100% buff. So essentially what that means is that it triples his range, because it goes from 100 and you have to plus 200% of that, which equals 300%. So now if you give it on Shaker he can attack units 3 hexes away. I could see this actually maybe working on Master Yi or something like that, just because of the fact that if you put Master Yi at the back line, he would now be able to attack 3 hexes away. So he would now be the equivalent of a ranged champion, which would be insane, and nothing would target him unless you have infiltrators or like Blitzcrank or something, of course. So I think this could maybe work on like a Master Yi comp or something that was initially melee range and that stopped them from being the carry. Maybe Irelia as well, something like that. Shroud of Stillness with 1 hex, 1.5 hexes. I think that's awesome. I thought Shroud of Stillness was really useful, but it was really hard to get your targeted enemy units in the hexes, especially because it was limited to how many people it could debuff. So I think that's an awesome buff. Key of the Goddess mana 20 to 15. All completed items adjusted accordingly. Oh, okay, that's a huge nerf to Actually, is it a nerf? Okay, it definitely is a nerf, but with Syndra, with Seraph's Embrace, what you would have is you would have a starting. The Syndra used to cost 50 mana. It still does cost 50 mana, but you would start off with 40 mana with Seraph's Embrace, right? Now you will start off with 30. And to be honest, when you run the Syndra comp, I would see a lot of people running 2 Seraph's Embrace anyway. So instead of starting with 80 mana, you'll start off with 60. And since her ult cost 50, you would start off with 50 out of 50 anyway. So if you have 2 Seraph's Embrace, the Star Guardian comp hasn't changed in terms of the nerf, because the Seraph's Embrace will still grant 20 mana per spellcast, which if you have 2 of them, it will grant 40. So the effects, the thing is with starting mana, it doesn't really matter too much unless you put 1 tier, because you'd usually just want the effect, right? Like, for example, Spear of Shojin, you would want it for that every 20 mana per auto attack, but now instead you get every 20 mana per every auto attack plus just a 15 mana starting bonus as opposed to 20, which I don't think is that bad. It definitely is a nerf, but if you're there for the item effect as opposed to just the starting mana, then that's fine. I think this would be a nerf to definitely something like Misfortune, because a lot of the time when you ran mana items on her, you would want it for that instant ulti, right? But now since tier items give less mana, it will be it will take longer for MF to complete her ulti. So this is a very high nerf to Misfortune. What else would there be? This would be a nerf to Aurelion Soul as well, if you'd wanted to, because you wouldn't be able to ulti straight away or take longer to ulti. It essentially just nerfs the first ulti. So everything that you would ult once. This would be a nerf to Misfortune, Echo. Is there anything else that you would just want to ult once? This will be a nerf to Lulu as well. Just anything that you would want to ult straight away, it's just a nerf to. Okay, Zeke's Herald range 2 hexes, 1 hex, but the attack speed buff is insane. Okay, I like that. Because most of the time, you would only have 1 or 2 carries to begin with. But this would be annoying to go up against, but it would make Zeke's Herald more viable because say when you have Jin comp, a blaster comp, your main carries will only be 1 or 2 units. It will be like Misfortune or Jinx for the blaster comp. Maybe for the Jin comp it will be Jin or like Ash or Jin and Shaco if you're running 6 Darkstar. So you would only have 2 carries, right? So this makes more sense because those 2 additional units did not need the speed buff and would not provide that much extra effect. So I think this is a huge buff, but at the same time it will make Zeke's Herald more viable, so you just gotta watch out for that because I feel like Zeke's Herald will be run a lot more because a 30% attack speed buff is quite insane. If you put it in terms, this is the equivalent of 2 recurve bows. So the attack speed that you get from rapid fire cannon will apply from Zeke's Herald, which is I think is insane. Just think of it, Zeke's Herald, as a free rapid fire cannon for 3 units, but without the extra attack range. Shields in overtime now have 66% reduced effectiveness, same as healing. Okay, I reckon that's pretty good because I didn't like the fact that when you were in overtime, you'd have those Mordekaisers just keep constantly buffing themselves, or those Karmas just constantly buffing themselves. I think that's fine. Cybernetic 3 is now currently a bronze level trait. Okay, that's a bit random. Mordekaiser tooltip. Oh, these are bug fixes. Okay. Mordekaiser's tooltip now properly states that shield lasts 8 seconds. Fix a Wukong bug. Blah blah blah. Adding additional death blade to a unit combat will no longer reset all other death blade count. Okay, okay. Okay, these are all just game of life changes. So essentially what has happened overall, I think Mech Pilot will definitely be ran less. If it is ran, it will definitely, the Mech Pilot part of it will definitely be a lot weaker. So in the early game, Mech Pilot will be a bit stronger or about the same, but besides that, huge nerf to Mech Pilot late game. Nerf to 6 Cybernetic, which is something I always like to see. Space Pirate has been buffed. 4-cost champions that were relatively irrelevant like Soraka, Jinx, and Wukong have been buffed. So essentially the six major Vel'Koz has been nerfed as well, essentially. But essentially the 3 comps that ran the most were Mech Pilot Infiltrator, 6 Cybernetics, and Mech Pilot 6 Cybernetics, and Void Brawler, but they have all been nerfed, so you might see them ran a bit less. Maybe not the Vel'Koz as much because there was no damage reduction. It was more just how many units he actually ults reduction. And Kel has not been nerfed, so I wouldn't be surprised seeing Kel a lot more this patch, especially because with the buff to Zeke's Herald, you can now actually buff her attack speed without having to put items on her. Which, if you don't know, Kel relies heavily on attack speed. You usually build a rapid fire cannon and then a GA and then 1 random additional item. So what do I expect from this patch? I expect Kale to be a lot more of a carry now. I expect in the early stages of the game that a lot of people are going to want to run Xerath. So if you're trying to go for Xerath, just be careful of that. I expect a lot of clickbait titles from other TFT streamers with all these new synergies that you have to build 2 spatula items to get, which I'm gonna find funny. Win and loss streaking, people will be a lot more conservative of loss streaking in the early game because you'll be taking a lot more damage now. So be wary of that. The fact that you are going to be taking a lot more damage, damage is almost doubled for early stages of the game. If you can't see this here, from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the number of surviving units. Essentially, if you have 1 to 5 surviving units, the damage is doubled, which in the early game, you're not going to have more than 5 surviving units because of the fact that you only have 3, 4 units in the early game. So early game damage has been buffed a lot. So yeah, and also ultis of champions that you want to ult straight away have definitely been nerfed through the tier items nerf, with 15 starting mana only. So I reckon Star Guardians will be ran a lot more. Cybernetics, I think, will still be ran. I think 750, the 50 health, where is it? The 50 health and the 5 AD damage debuff, I don't think that's enough, personally. And when we looked at the champions, there were no debuffs to any of the cybernetic champions. So Leona, Fiora, Echo, Lucian. Oh, Lucian was the only one that got a small debuff, which was like, what, 5 attack damage? Yeah, 5 attack damage. Lucian was the only one that got debuffed. Aurelia is still the same, and Echo is still the same as well. What did I miss? Oh, and Vi. Vi is still the same. So I think 6 cybernetics will still be ran. Mech Pilot definitely ran a lot less. It won't be a forced comp anymore, especially with the late game being nerfed. And what else was there? Void Brawler, I reckon, will still be ran. I don't think there's literally had not been many changes, except I reckon Star Guardians will be really strong, or a lot stronger now, because the tier buff doesn't affect it too much. And also because Chalice of Favor has been buffed to grant mana to the holder, which I reckon could be really good for Syndra. So yeah, 6 cybernetics will definitely still be ran. Void Brawler will still be ran. Star Guardians I feel like have been buffed, and Mech Pilot has been debuffed. Kayle has not changed, so Kayle will still be relevant in this meta. So just look out for those comps. I hope you like this overview. I hope you learned something from it. I hope it's helped you in some sort of way, and I'll just see you in the next video. So cheers, guys.
Let's just take it slow, 'cause I don't like fast pace.